Hi, and welcome to the End Times Guy podcast. My name is Lee, and it is great to have you joining me today on this podcast that is probably the most unprofessional and unentertaining you will ever listen to. But I wanted to tell you today, first of all, that this podcast isn't designed for entertainment. The first purpose is to glorify God. You and I have the privilege and the honor of being called the children of God, living in the palm of his hand, protected by his grace, fed by his excellent provision, his supply, all that we should ever want or need freely given to us. But we get eyes that see and ears that hear. And that is tremendously wonderful. We don't have to stumble in the darkness as most people do. We have the privilege of seeing clearly. So let's take advantage of that privilege and use our eyes that see to look around at what's taking place on the face of the planet. We are going into the end times. The signs that Jesus told us to watch out for are taking place all around us on an increasing level. Over and over again. Last night, there was a storm going on here in Alberta, Canada, that had me scared. The lightning was one after another, back to back. The sky was just constantly lit up, thunder crashing and booming constantly. The rain was just pouring like a torrent. And the wind was such that I was really worried about a twister setting down, because this is the country, the kind of place where twisters do touch down. And it made me realize how vulnerable we are and how at the mercy of God we all are. When God unleashes, when he really opens it up, man has no safety and security except in him. We have no safe place except in him. You know, right now, men in all their lofty wisdom are buying up underground bunkers. Gates and a lot of these well-to-dos are building bunkers in the ground, preparing for the day of the Lord. And when the Lord starts to release his fury on the earth, they're going to go down into these posh, lavish, well-stocked bunkers. What did the Bible say? They would crawl into the rocks and ask the mountains to fall in them and hide them from the wrath of God. That is not our escape plan. That is not our sanctuary. Our sanctuary and our escape plan is Jesus Christ. He is our ark, our refuge and shelter, and we need to have faith. And last night, when that storm was unloading, I was searching my heart for faith. Do I have faith? If something terrible happens tonight, do I have faith that it is in God's hands, I am in God's hands, and all will be well with my soul? And my answer was yes. As much as it is, at the moment terrifying, I also have peace in the fact that whatever happens to the flesh, it's all in God's hands. God is the God when things are going well, and he is God when things are going terribly wrong as well. So we really need to build up our faith and be strong in our faith and security in the Lord as things go from bad to worse. We will lose our jobs. We'll be ostracized from society. We'll be arrested. We may be put to death for keeping the testimony of Jesus Christ. We have to be prepared in our hearts for all of these things. So my plea to you, and kind of the purpose of this whole podcast, is to strengthen you and to prepare you so that when things are going terribly wrong all around you, when there's true misery, true suffering, true fear, true chaos, that we have faith to say it is well with my soul. I will not trust in weapons to protect me. I will not trust in bunkers to hide me. I will not trust in wealth to supply my provision. In all these things, I will turn to the Lord my God, and I will trust in him. This is the level of faith we're going to need, realistically and practically, to get through the days that are coming. So really sit down and ask yourself where you're at, how deep your faith is, how secure and solid your trust is in the Lord? Will he supply all of your needs, even in the middle of chaos? Because in our peaceful Western lives, we can convince ourselves and assure ourselves of many things. But when the rubber hits the road and when real calamity strikes, we find out what's really going on in our hearts. I saw one of the most horrible and unforgettable things I ever saw was a group of Christians being persecuted for their faith, not just persecuted, but martyred in an African village. They dug out a big ditch, they filled it with wood, lit it on fire, and they were forcing the Christians down into the ditch, beating them and throwing them into the ditch to burn them. And one Christian man sat there, allowing himself to perish and pray. He was praying and allowing himself to be burned. And one woman kept shaking her head and waving her hands and running out of the ditch. And they kept beating her and throwing her back in the ditch. And I don't know what she was saying, but the fear in my heart was she was denying Christ, wanting to live. She wanted to hold on to her life, and she was willing to deny Christ. But they weren't willing to let her go. They kept beating her and throwing her back in the ditch. And I want you to ask yourself, will you sit down in the fire for Christ? Are you willing to let go of this life for Christ? Or will fear of death cause you to deny Christ? And in the end, it won't do you any good. That poor woman lost such a precious thing that day. She lost the crown of righteousness given to those, the martyrs who are martyred for Christ's name, receive a very high honor in the kingdom. She had before her the opportunity of a very high honor, but her fear overcame her and she lost that crown. And I hope she didn't lose her soul as well. I hope, I don't know. But my plea to you is, how ready are you for calamity, for suffering, even for death? Search your heart and know how strong you are in your faith today. God bless you, my brothers and sisters.